Okay, hey you guys, today I'm going to be talking about a really common topic that's coming up now all the time, and it's pornography. Before I start, I wanted to talk about a well-known serial killer, Ted Bundy, who raped and murdered tons of women. And on one of his last interviews before he was executed, he talked about how he was raised in a loving, caring Christian home. Isn't that weird, you guys? Because most times when we think of these people, we think of they were probably brought up in an awful home with awful parents with just a horrible life. And that wasn't the case. But he said that when he was really young, he was exposed to pornography. And so that's the thing that I wanted to talk about today. About how important it is for us to start talking to our children about these topics, this topic specifically, and the topic of sex at a really young age. And sometimes that's hard. That's hard because we're not used to it. It's become such a taboo topic that we even kind of get embarrassed with our children to talk about it. But the thing is that it's not helping them. You know, back in the day, somewhere a long time ago, they used to have weddings where they would have the ceremony, and after the ceremony, they would have in the location where they would celebrate, in the middle, they would have a tent. And in that tent, the couple would go in and consummate the marriage. While the rest of the party, children and adults alike, would be surrounding the tent, waiting for them to consummate, and they would continue celebrating. And once they consummated, they would throw the bloody sheets over the tent so that everyone knew, and everyone would celebrate and cheer and would be excited. Like I said, children and adults alike. And now we think that's weird, but back then they thought this would be weird to not be able to talk about it freely. And this is how it should be, though. This is how it should be. It should be very easy and carefree to talk to our children about it. Why? Because whatever foundation is laid in this topic is what will carry them out throughout their adulthood, childhood and adulthood. So we want to lay a good foundation. If not, either through abuse or through another child talking to them at school or in their little circle of friends that has been exposed to something like this, or just pornography, or somehow there's going to be another foundation that's laid, and it probably will not be like the one we could lay that's good, and it talks about healthy sex and what our private parts are and not naming. So we need to just suck it up, not let them see us sweat, even if we're really uncomfortable, and start talking to them. And you guys want to know, a lot of people say, well, what age is the appropriate age to start talking to them? Well, if a child can be abused at 1 year old, then I think an appropriate age is pretty much any age where they can start understanding. And I believe a 4 and 5 year old can start understanding these things. So start talking to them little so that they get this foundation, and then nothing else can disrupt it. And the reason I'm saying that is because when my son Liam was 8 years old, last year he was 8 years old, with my husband, we started thinking, this started becoming a big topic to us because we started seeing little things that we didn't like, and we realized we needed to start talking to them. And so we started pulling each of our kids aside, me, the girls, and him, the boys, and discussing these things about healthy sex and what it was, and we also discussed pornography with them. Well, it happened to be that as my husband was discussing, just having an open, calm, peaceful discussion about this, and my son was listening, he realized that he had been exposed to pornography. And you would think, what is that? How would he be? Well, he had been on a video game that we had allowed, and you guys, most people that know us know we are very strict with what our kids watch. We're really strict with what we allow them to do. And so this was like a shocker to us. And he said a game that we had approved for him to play on had advertisements pop up. And one of the advertisements was a man and a woman who were completely naked from head to toe. And just chatting on a couch. You guys, I don't want to see that, and it disturbs me. It would disturb me to see that. Why should my son be exposed to that? And he was. And so thankfully it obviously had bothered him, and thankfully my husband had opened up the discussion not long after it had happened, that he was able to talk about it and feel good about it, because he was able to get it out and not feel bad and start condemning himself and then wanting to see more and being curious. Well, then not really funny, but interesting that not long after that, last year we had a few things happen. A friend of his like I said, we're really strict, but they were allowed to go like in the backyard of one of our neighbors, and all the kids were hanging out there. The girls on one side and the boys were playing over here and the other neighbor's side. And so he was hanging out with all the boys, just jumping on a trampoline, just having fun. And all of a sudden, one of the boys decided that he had a phone and he would look up fat people, which in itself is just not right. But he looked it up and he said that that pictures of naked people started popping up. And the boys were laughing and pointing, and they kept scrolling and looking at all these pictures, and he just left. And he was really upset about it because he had understood what was not healthy and what was healthy. And so thankfully that we had that conversation with him, that he may have not told us. Well then, little things like that. And you guys, we think that it's only these children or these other moments, but even I made the mistake of, after talking to him, I happened to be with a family member out at the mall, and that family member wanted to go into Victoria's Secrets to get something. Well, I had my 4 kids, and I decided to just pop in with them because we were walking together, not even thinking of it. And all of a sudden, I start feeling, Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. And I stop, and I'm like, what, Liam? And he's like, covering his little face, and he's like, Mommy, these people are naked, and they're wearing just their underwear and stuff. That's not okay. And it was women, obviously we're in Victoria's Secrets. And the truth is, these kids shouldn't have to be exposed to lingerie. These kids shouldn't have to even he knew, it was a conviction. He knew that it wasn't right for him to be seeing this. This is how the desires start, by seeing things. We think that it's because they are exposed to the pornography and the videos of people having sex, but it starts with a naked person, underwear, this thing, lingerie, being exposed to all these little things. And we think as parents, we don't think of it. Really, it's that we don't think of it. We don't even, but it made me realize, and I won't make that mistake again of taking him in somewhere like that, or of any of my kids to anything like that. And that's not even that, to most people it would be like, you're being ridiculous, Victoria's Secrets, but no, you guys, that bothered him. If it was his conviction, why would I put him through that? And the truth is, it became my conviction after that. And I wouldn't want my children to have to see that. I don't want my husband in there. Why would I want my children in there if I don't want my husband in there? So just being more aware of the things they're being exposed to, realizing it's happening on YouTube in those videos, it's happening on our games. A lot of parents are like, well, what do you do? Well, what do I do? Unfortunately, we went from allowing them to play things on the tablet to where the tablet doesn't even get used, because the only thing they can do is, take pictures on the tablet. I don't think there's very much. Use the notes on there, so they don't use it anymore. But you know what? I'd rather that than them be exposed. What else? Like, we don't have any devices like Xboxes or PlayStations that can be connected to Wi-Fi. We have a Nintendo, which they love playing, and they don't even play it that often, but they do like playing with it. And you might say, well, that's not. What did we do back in the day? That's what we played with, and we had a lot of fun. And you know what? My kids love Mario Brother, and they love these things, and Pac-Man and Atari, and they have fun with it. But then they also actually do what children should be doing, and they're outside a lot, like right now, waiting for me to open the door and be done with the video because they're hot. But they're enjoying themselves and being children and not exposed to these things. Why not avoid it as long as we can? The other thing is also being aware of, when we're talking to them, we're also being able to show them what these things really are. We think it's just talking to them about that, but it's also talking to them about, what's not okay with an adult relationship, what is okay. And for example, telling our children, people that do this is not okay and you need to talk to me. You're seeing more and more these adults, these teachers raping their students. Our children need to be aware that this is happening. This isn't about a fear, you guys. This isn't to live in fear and make our children walk in fear, but hey, this is happening in the world. Because guess what? If it's happening, it means that they need to be aware of it. This is happening. Teachers are touching children inappropriately and doing things to children inappropriately. If an adult, because guess what? It's known. First of all, when it's happening, to children at home, in the sense of not sex trafficked children, but children in the lives of families, it's happening by someone close to a child, whether it be an adult, a parent, or an older sibling. It's happening through relatives, through friends of the family, through teachers. So it's people that know them, and they're not just coming up and raping these children, right away. They're first vetting them. They're first telling them nice things and buying them nice things. So we need to be more aware of this than anything else, and we need to be also very diligent of how our adults and other people and children and anybody really, because it's also happening to children that are being abused are then abusing other children. So we need to be aware of all the interactions and be more careful, you guys. I know this might offend some, but I've had people send kids over to my house and I don't even know them. I don't even know them. I'm sorry, but you have to be careful. My dad was abusing, raping me, and people were coming to my house, and thankfully, from what I know, he never put a hand on anyone else. But that doesn't mean after a certain amount of time that it couldn't have happened. And so we have to be careful who we're allowing our children to be with, and who really no one. They should be in our home as much as possible at this age. And there should be a small limit of people that are around them and they're exposed to and they're allowed to be around. And we should know them very well. So I just really think that we need to be more aware of the stuff that's happening around, the true problems that we're seeing with this stuff, what pornography really is. You know, I've already discussed this in a previous video, but I was talking about how we think that even not doing it in the privacy of our rooms or in our own time when the children are asleep, that's okay. No, their spirits are very their little spirits are able to catch on to these things in the spirit realm, and they're being exposed to these things even through parents that are doing it in private time, but it's really not, it's affecting them. And I saw that in my own life, how it affected me, that my dad did that before he even did the abuse, was looking at pornography, and it was affecting me even then. And now looking back, I know that. But so we need to be first watching ourselves. We need to be watching the people around. We need to be seeing what our children are being exposed to. We need to be careful what we're watching in our own spare time. You know, we think, oh, that movie's not that big of a deal. Well, okay, that's exposing their little spirits to that. Then we can't expect the outcome to be good. We need to be more diligent about taking care of our children, making sure that they're not being exposed to these things, and just being more aware. We don't realize it. Believe me, it was a big shocker last year finding out all these things that were happening, and we're pretty strict. And now being even more strict, but they can enjoy life with the strictness. My kids are having fun right now. They're just playing, having fun with their friends, enjoying all the time they have to just be kids and have fun. So you guys, if you guys have any other things you guys would like me to discuss in the next videos, feel free to write me. Any concerns or questions, feel free to write me. See you guys.